Welcome to Echoes of My Imagination. My name is Tracy Lee. Sit back, relax, let me tell you a story. Today's story is called The Anchors. Let's get into it. Chapter 1, Tide Song. Rain fell in threads, soft and patient, touching the shoreline like fingers tracing stone. Ilara knelt at the edge of the surf. Water ran over her palms, cold and smooth, pressing against her skin. The sand beneath shivered under her fingers, shifting slightly, carrying the quiet pulse of tide she could not name. Each grain pressed back, a whisper of movement, subtle and ancient. The villagers spoke of the purse of the sea, small, heavy, waiting. They said it chose its bearer. She did not know this yet. Through her chest, a tug she could not ignore. She had arrived at dawn, wrapped in driftwood and kelp, red sea branch tangled in her hair. Each strand clung, damp and fragrant, carrying the scent of salt and riverwood. Her breath stretched longer than a child should. When she dove beneath the waves, light folded slowly around her, bending and glimmering in quiet ribbons. The tide leaned toward her, bending its edge, pulling her forward, as if it recognized the shape of her body, the rhythm of her pulse. A pine cone tumbled from the cliffs, striking the shallow surf with a faint, dry tap. Its scales caught moonlight, sharp and reflective, kissed with salt. Ilara lifted it, pressing it to her ear. A hum threaded through her chest, brushing against bone and muscle, sliding into her fingertips. She did not name it. She did not think. She felt it roll and spiral inside her, shaping her breath, bending her heartbeat into its quiet rhythm. Further along, the purse-shaped shell lay flat on a rock, spiraled, iridescent, etched with faint, deliberate lines. When she touched it, it throbbed, a subtle vibration, neither harsh nor weak, only steady. Her hands, her pulse, her attention braided into it, drawing her awareness outward and inward at once. Breath met tide, muscle met motion. Focus met the hidden currents she could feel, but could not see. The purse was not a thing to hold. It was a path, a thread, a current she had to become. She walked along the shore. Salt spray clung to her arms, stung her eyes, and left fine granules along her lips. Feet sank into sand, shifting with each step. Foam curled around her ankles, tickling, drawing her forward. Her voice rose in a song she had not yet learned, wordless, rising and falling with the tide. 3 ripples formed in the water, each twisting outward, threading through surf, wind, and stone. Her fingers brushed the air and strands braided with her pulse, the tide, and the quiet space between breath and thought. A rosette-shaped shell tumbled forward on a small wave. Its petals caught light in deep hollows and sharp curves. She pressed it to her chest, fingertips resting against cold, smooth curves. Spirals moved through her spine, up her arms, through the soles of her feet, pressing gently against the sand. She did not separate herself from the tide, wind, or stone. She was vessel, pulse, and current all at once, steady and unbroken. When she returned to the village, the tide shifted beneath her feet. Birds dipped closer to the water, wings brushing the surface, calling softly. Children paused mid-play, hands frozen, eyes catching the shimmer along her hair and the subtle bends in the sand and surf. She said nothing. She moved as the strands moved, beneath, within, and above. The currents ran through her fingers as if the sea itself had chosen them to guide it. Night came. The moon rose pale, silver arcs spilling across the water. The pine cone rested where the tide had drawn it. The purse-shaped shell nested amongst the stones. The rosette glimmered faintly against the damp sand. She was here. Through waves, through air, through pulse, she was the weave itself, alive, steady, present. Every detail mattered. The grit of sand between toes, the cold bite of water on the elbows, the hum of tide through her chest. Each step was layered with pulse and intention, each breath threaded through body, current, and attention. The world bent around her with subtle acknowledgement, bending just enough for her to feel it, but not enough to break the rhythm. She moved, walked, and breathed the tide. Every ripple, stone, shell, and gust of wind became a note in the song she carried. She was not apart from the world, and the world was not apart from her. The purse, the pine cone, the rosette, threading through her fingers, her pulse, her breath. She was both thread and weaver. The tide bent for her, not because she commanded it, but because she was its echo, steady and patient, carrying the currents forward. Chapter 2. Riverlight. The river bent around the stones like it knew the shape of the world before humans did. Torin crouched at the edge, letting his fingers trail through the cold, clear current. Water slipped between his knuckles, pulling slightly, tugging at his pulse. The river hummed in quiet threads, moving beneath his hands, around his wrists, winding into the small hollows of his arms. A lantern lay half submerged among reeds, glass streaked with mud, its metal frame pitted by years of storms. Torin lifted it, feeling the weight settle against his palms. Inside, a faint spark struggled to glow. He tilted the lantern, and light stretched along the stones, glinting across the water's surface, catching on wet moss and curling leaves. The river responded, bending around his hands as if testing the shape of his intent. A shell rolled to his fingers, small, rosette-shaped, its edges delicate but sharp. Torin pressed it against the lantern. The glow caught in its spirals, flickering along the carved lines. Tiny currents seemed to ripple outward from his chest into his arms and into the lantern's light. He did not understand it. He did not need to. He only felt the pull, threading through muscle, breath, and heartbeat. Focus became movement. Movement became pulse. Pulse became rhythm. The river whispered over stones, nudging him forward. Each step pressed into mud, wet leaves sticking to boots, sand slipping beneath toes. He let the lantern hover close to the water, watching light stretch, bend, and spiral along every ripple. The current followed his hands, braided through the glow, reflecting his pulse in quiet arcs. Every detail mattered. The tickle of foam against his ankles, the taste of cold mist on his lips, the scent of wet moss and earth. A pine cone drifted past, caught in the gentle swirl. Torin reached for it. When his fingers brushed the scales, a faint vibration ran through the lantern, humming through his chest. The light steadied, warm and certain, as if acknowledging him. He did not speak. He did not need to. He only felt the alignment, subtle and quiet, threading through mind, body, and the currents he could sense but not name. The river widened as he followed its bend. Sunlight filtering through leaves dappled across water, stones, and moss. Birds called overhead, wings brushing the air with soft pulses. Torin let the lantern float just above the surface, its glow reflecting in ripples. Each step, each breath, each touch wove him further into the river, into the air, into the world. When he returned to the forest edge, the river bent differently around the stones, as though it remembered his hands. Birds lingered, wings poised, watching the glow dance along the water. He pressed the rosette to his chest. The pine cone rested in the shallow current. The lantern glimmered steadily in his hands. He felt the strands settle inside him, body, mind, hidden current, each moving as one, connected. Torin knelt again, letting the water flow over his hands, listening to the subtle hum threading through river and stone. He was present. He was steady. He was the pulse of the river, the braid of light and water, the quiet thread moving unseen but undeniably alive. And the river moved with him, soft and patient, carrying the lantern's glow into place. Chapter 3. Emberstone. The cave mouth yawned like the throat of the earth, dark and low, exhaling the faint warmth of hidden stone. Lyra stepped inside, boots pressing into the cold, uneven rock. Each footfall echoed softly, bouncing along walls slick with condensation. The air smelled of wet stone, smoke, and something older, something waiting. A faint ember glowed in the far corner, lodged in a hollow of black rock. Lyra approached slowly, fingers brushing against cool stone, rough and jagged, as if the walls themselves were alive, breathing. The ember pulsed, a heartbeat small but steady, almost imperceptible. She did not need to speak. She only felt its rhythm and let her own pulse align. A purse-shaped stone rested beside the ember, spiraled and etched, worn smooth by centuries. When she touched it, warmth threaded into her hands, flowing through veins, settling into her chest. Breath, muscle, and bone seemed to hum along the same quiet vibration. The ember flared slightly, responding to her pulse, acknowledging her presence without demand. She knelt, letting her palms hover over the fire and stone, feeling currents that moved invisibly through air and rock. A rosette-shaped crystal caught faint light near her knees, edges sharp but inviting. She pressed it to the hollow of her palm. Subtle threads of energy unfurled, wrapping around her spine, her arms, her legs, tracing the shape of her body against the pulse of the cave. A gust of wind swept through the entrance, cold and fragrant with pine. The ember flickered, shadows dancing across stone faces. Lyra leaned into it, letting the movement guide her hands, her breath, her heartbeat. She realized the pulse was not hers alone. It flowed through rock, through air, through hidden veins of the earth. She followed it without thinking, letting intention and presence braid into the quiet current. Tiny sparks drifted from the ember, dancing along invisible lines she could just sense. Each spark brushed against her skin like fingers, leaving faint trails of warmth and light. Lyra inhaled, chest rising with slow, deliberate rhythm, allowing every touch, every vibration to thread through her being. Her body became a channel, her awareness the lens, the ember of the mirror of the hidden stream. A pine cone rolled from a narrow ledge above, spinning slightly before settling near her feet. She picked it up, feeling a faint hum it carried. When she pressed it gently against the purse-shaped stone, the ember flared, light spilling across the cave, tracing arches and spirals along wet walls. She could feel the currents moving, subtle and alive, weaving through body, mind, and hollowed stone. She rose slowly, holding the rosette and pine cone together. The cave exhaled, wind curling around her shoulders, lifting her hair. The ember glowed steadily, steady as her own pulse, steady as the flow threading through the walls, through the air, through her hands. She did not name it. She did not need to. She only felt it, the quiet, invisible strand that ran through all things, the thread that connected her to the unseen, the world beyond what eyes could see. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining me for Echoes of My Imagination. My name is Tracy Lee. Don't forget to subscribe, share, follow, and like, and join me next time for part 2 of The Anchors.